If you have ADHD, how should you be thinking about nutrition? I think this discussion starts with the concept of brain health. How often has the term brain health come up in your experience? Chances are you haven't heard it very much. We hear about heart health and cardiovascular health and health of other organs, digestive health. How often do you hear about brain health? Well, I would argue that the brain is where your happiness is, and so that the more you pay attention to how well you take care of your brain, the happier you're going to be. I think it's a very reasonable and very important correlation to make. More specifically, brain health translates into a sharp intellectual acuity. That means well, it means what it sounds. You're sharp. You're not foggy. You're not unnecessarily distracted. Here we are talking about this in the context of ADHD, and so just be aware that your ability to focus and think through things and to minimize distractions will be better if you've got good nutrition going. Secondly, better emotional life. If happiness resides in the brain, let's talk about an example of that. I remember when my youngest son was 6 years old, I took him out for ice cream. And he's sitting there he would always get a small vanilla ice cream cone. And that day he was sitting there eating that ice cream cone, and I thought, this has got to be the cutest kid on the planet. And it was a real pleasure, a real joy for me in that moment to enjoy watching my cute kid eat an ice cream cone. And so that is an example of being emotionally available to enjoy the simple pleasures in life. And so the healthier your brain is, the more likely you will be to not to miss those small things. Moving on then, the healthy brain is about diet, sleep, and exercise. Diet, sleep, exercise are the three things you pay attention to when it comes to your health and your brain health specifically. So I have three suggestions. So number one, with respect to diet, I recommend healthy whole foods. I would suggest half of what you eat are vegetables. Some fruit maybe, but fruit frequently has high sugar content, and maybe that should be instead a part of the carbohydrate that you take in. So vegetables, generally speaking, are low carb, and then you have your carbohydrate, and then you have your protein. And in fact, I heard it suggested once that if you consider a plate, then half the plate is vegetables, a quarter of it is your carbohydrate, and a quarter of it is your meat or your protein, such as beans. So again, half vegetables, some fruit. Next, less meat, but enough protein. You can take that from there. And then there is healthy meat, and there's meat that's not particularly healthy. So generally, healthy meat is going to be, let's say, hamburger that is we could get into a discussion about how the cattle that produce hamburger are in conditions, feedlots that are unhealthy, and they have to be given antibiotics to keep them from getting sick, and steroids to make them put on fat. Those meats are not considered healthy meats. Grass-fed, organic type meat is healthy in appropriate amounts. You don't want to overdo that. A 16-ounce steak is probably too much meat. Next, less fat. Most would agree to that. That's kind of a no-brainer. Remember that 2/3 of the American population is overweight, and 1/3 is in the obese category. So there is too much fat in our diets, probably too much sugar, too much carbohydrate in general. Let me mention gluten. Gluten is a protein in wheat. And so when you look at how much flour, bread, pasta is in your diet, uh, a lot of us develop a gluten sensitivity, which can result in inflammation in various parts of the body that looks like gout. And so it's real important to, one source says that probably 85% of the population has a gluten sensitivity. And if it's causing inflammation throughout your body, it's causing inflammation in your brain as well. Therefore, less brain health, higher risk for such things as Alzheimer's disease. All right, so then lastly, under the heading of diet, be aware of your weight. It is not wrong to weigh every day just so you know what the number is, so that you're stepping up to account for that on a daily basis. People who say that you shouldn't watch the scale, that's a different perspective. I think their message is don't watch the scale too much, but I think that information is otherwise valuable information. In a similar sense, have an awareness of the calories you're taking in. We're talking proportions of food, yes, but we're also talking about total daily calories. You know, in this day and age, it is easy enough to learn about calories to the point where you can make good, educated guesses as to how much calories you're taking in a day's time. We all know that there are apps that count every little calorie. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about estimates, and we're talking awareness. Be aware of your weight. Be aware of your caloric intake. All right, all that's about diet. Uh, One other thing, so moving on, more about diet. This is a talk about nutrition after all. So we want to avoid processed foods. What is processed? Processed is what it sounds like. There is, if you buy a banana has not been processed in any way. On the other hand, if you buy a plate of ready-made lasagna, then that's highly processed. It's the pasta has been created or made for you. The sauce has been made for you. It has been seasoned, it has been preserved, and it has been all put out there where it's highly convenient, but usually not that healthy. So if you want to opt for health, then again, you're going for whole foods as opposed to processed foods. It's important when you have ADHD to regulate stimulants. A lot of us have found out that coffee and certain caffeinated beverages throughout the day to keep us focused. Well, yes, but those coffee moderately apparently has no real health risks for normal healthy people. There are exceptions. Um, but generally, drinking energy drinks throughout the day might seem to help you focus, but it is not particularly good for your brain. Um, Consider then becoming a health nut. Now, a health nut in my day was somebody who paid too much attention to health, almost to an obsessive degree. Uh, I think it's better to use the term expert, become an expert on what good nutrition really is. Decide you're going to be an expert in that area because you want to feel healthier and you want to be happier because that's what will happen